Hi, I'm Keith Tokrud, lawyer in Great Falls, Montana. With me today is Dan Konen, a CPA here in Great Falls, whom I've done a lot of work with. And I thought, since Dan has a specialty that's pretty important to this neck of the woods, it would be great to have you come and talk a little bit, Dan, about what work you do, some of the issues that you're facing, some ideas on how a person might deal with those, and then if someone wanted to talk to you, just how that might go. That's what I have in mind today. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Could you start out by just telling people a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Dan Konen. I grew up on a farm and ranch operation in Fairfield, Montana. Basically went to school at Fairfield, went to college at Carroll College in Helena, and right out of college started with JCCS in October of 1983. So I've been with the company for 36, going on 37 years.
They say JCCS, what's that?
JCCS is kind of the acronym that we go by for our accounting firm. The actual name is Junkemeyer, Clark, Campanella, Stevens. It's a full practice, full service accounting practice. We got 6 locations throughout the state of Montana. The Great Falls office is considered the corporate headquarters, and that's where I've worked most of my life. With my hometown being from Fairfield and being involved in the cattle business and ranching business, even after getting out of high school, I kind of did some cattle operation stuff on the side of the accounting business, so it kept me close to home. So Great Falls was a good place for me to sit and be able to have 2 different jobs, I guess, 2 full-time jobs for a while.
Well, so tell us a little bit more about your accounting job then. What have you focused on?
So the accounting, because of me growing up on a farm and ranch operation, predominantly, right now I'm predominantly in the tax field and work predominantly with farm and ranch clients. I do work with all, individuals and other businesses also, but with having the background, I'm predominantly the kind of the go-to agricultural guy for the whole firm. So.
Yeah. And Dan, you and I have worked together on quite a few different matters. We've also put some workshops on to talk to farmers and ranchers about their planning. If you're just thinking about the work that you're doing for farm and ranchers, what kind of issues do you see them getting involved in that involves your work?
Well, it's kind of full gamut, really. If it's someone new that's starting out in the farm and ranching, it's getting together and discussing what type of entity they should be forming, what kind of operation they want to run, and what fits best for them. And as they go through their trials and tribulations and stuff, you just try to tweak things and try to find tax-saving opportunities for them, ways to grow and mature in their environment. And as they mature through it, now what I'm seeing more, because of being there 37 years, a lot of my clients now are getting to those ages where now they're either transferring it on to other generations, or they have to find an exit plan. And so estate planning becomes very important. How do they get out of what they're in? If they don't have a family member that wants to come back home and run it, what are their options? And so that's kind of where I come in, we just kind of, I think you and I have worked together with fair clients in estate planning to say, here's where we're at, here's where we want to be, how do we get there?
Yeah. Okay, well, it's now fall of 2020. What kind of issues are on the front of your table right now when you're working with your clients?
Well, right now, I guess a lot of the calls that are coming in for, say, the last few months having to deal with this COVID-19 issue that we're going through, the different government programs that are out there, the different relief packages. Do they qualify? Don't they qualify? Should they take them? Some of them are grants, some of them are loans that they have to pay out over certain years. Some of the programs that have come out, the money's out or the money's coming, but yet they still haven't come up with how they're going to enforce, whether they have to pay it back, whether they can deduct the expenses. So there's a lot of questions that we still don't know the final answers on. So you're dealing with that, and then a lot of the farmers right now are dealing with just depressed prices in commodities and everything. So they're really struggling. The costs of farming have not come down that much, but as far as the revenue streams are getting a lot tighter.
Yeah. I'm thinking about some of the matters we've worked on where we've sat down with some people, and initially, my question, you're the accountant, but my question is, do we really have a viable operation here? For instance, we're talking about transferring to the next generation. Are we saddling them with an asset that's not really going to work out? Or is this an opportunity that really would be great for the next generation? And of course, that's more your side of the ledger than mine, but how do you approach your work? So let's just say someone comes into your office, they've got an existing operation, and maybe they're in their, I don't know, 50s or 60s. How would you approach their issues in terms of this transition or the succession?
Well, I think the first important question really is there a generation there that wants to take over? And are they dedicated to get into it? Do they understand the ups and downs, the pitfalls in this particular type of work, the hours that it takes? And I think a lot of times, I guess we just find out that you start running numbers economically. Sometimes you run some of the numbers, and some farmers and ranchers, I'll be honest with you, are probably better off if they sold everything and invested the money and lived off of that and got their check out of the mailbox, for example. Just because it's very, very difficult for a beginning farmer to get started in today's world. I mean, for a new guy who's just starting out, has to buy the land, has to buy the equipment, I think would be very difficult for anybody to think they're going to make it. If they're able to walk into their parents, what the parents have built, and take over, and parents are there to help them and help use some of their equipment and so forth to get going, it takes some of the sting probably out of it. But it's a tough field right now.
Yeah. Well, if a family did come into you, what kind of a process do you follow to be able to help them?
Well, I think right now it's just kind of sitting down and asking a lot of questions as far as what do they have, what kind of an operation do they want to run, what they feel their revenue options are, what kind of expenses they're going to intake, what's it going to take, what do they need to live on. You know, some families are different. Some families can live on less than others, but it's like what their expectations are. And then you just have to kind of crunch the numbers and try to figure out, can they make it work, and you know, where can they tighten, and what do they need to do to make it work.
And I know from our work together that one of the ways you start is by looking at their current income tax returns.
Yeah, a lot of times you can't just look at a single year, but you need to look at 3-4 years and kind of see what everything's been happening, because you can play around a lot with numbers on a tax return as far as make it look good, make it look bad, depending on just kind of depending on what kind of income stream you have, whether you want to defer something, prepay something, you can play with those. So it's really, tax returns is a start, but to me you really have to look at what is the revenue, what's the opportunity for revenue stream, and what expenses is going to take, and can you do it with a net profit at the end. And yeah, you can play with it from one year to the next, and you have a good year one year and a bad year next. You can play with the numbers and do some tax planning things to make it work out the best, but you still have to come down to what can it generate. If you just took it straight across the board, what's your revenue stream and what's your expenses, can you make it?
Yeah. Well, Dan, if someone wants to take you up on your offer to sit down and see whether you guys would be a good fit, how do you decide how you're going to be paid?
Well, that's kind of difficult to give just a flat answer. I think really the best approach is to meet with the new clients and just sit down and find out what their needs are, and see if there's a good fit, see whether or not there's something we can do for them. And once you've got all the information and you get an idea of what all needs to be done to accomplish what their needs are, then I think you would sit down and just try to come out and discuss some terms and what they feel the value to them is, and try to come up with a price. Sometimes we have hourly rates, sometimes we have fixed prices, depending on the kind of work that needs to be done. I got various staff other than myself within my office, and we're all at different billing rates depending on their experiences and that kind of thing. So, and you try to get other staff members involved so they get the training and stuff, but you try to match them up with people that can do the work that they need at the best price we can provide. So
that's one nice thing about having a firm like you have.
yeah, it's nice if something happens to me, there's somebody else there to pick up the pieces. I know there's a lot of 1 and 2 man shops out there that, and I've picked up clients on those where all of a sudden their tax provider has either gotten sick or has something happened to them, and so now they're in a panic to look for somebody else. Working in a bigger office like what I'm in, you've got other people that you can rely on and someone else to step in and take over. So we're constantly training new staff all the time in the ag field, and because I can't be there forever. I mean, someday somebody's going to have to take over. So we keep getting people educated and try to do the best we can for the clients that come through our door.
Right. Well, I don't know how many matters we've worked on together, but I've seen you sit down with people, and it doesn't take long before they realize you bring a lot to the table, not only as a CPA, but as a rancher yourself.
It helps having grown up in the field, and you know the language, you know the lingo, you know what they're going through, because I've lived it myself.
Yeah, and then from my standpoint, I'm always talking about team-based planning, where I think I know a little bit about the law maybe, but I don't know much about accounting or tax, and it's great when a person can team up with another professional to be able to bring a great result for the client. And one thing I really appreciate you is that you're willing to work with others. You don't have a big ego or anything like that.
No, I've seen that it's worked well the last, what have we done this, maybe 4 or 5 years, something like that. We've put on seminars, and it's been bringing you to the table, bringing a financial advisor to the table to deal with those type of issues, and then myself from the accounting and the tax end. And I think we present a pretty good team to work with people and be able to look at all the different aspects. It's amazing when you sit down in a room and you start going over all the different ideas that each side brings to the table. And you know, I'll bring up stuff you may not think about and vice versa, and that's important in those meetings because that's where things get forgotten or left out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I like about having you in the room, we've worked with several clients where you've done work for them for quite a while, and they, for whatever reason, don't bring up an issue that's pretty important, and you're right there to say, well, what about this? What about that? And I think that really helps the conversation get to where it needs to be able to do some good planning for people.
I think I remember some of those cases where we went through some of the stuff, and I was not the initial accountant, for example. They were working with other accountants, which is fine, but we sat down and started working with them, and as you start looking at their tax returns and the things they did in their operations, and we start throwing things out like, well, did you ever think to do this, or do you think to do that? And some of them ran back to their other accountants and said, did you guys think of this or think of that? And I know there's been changes and corrections made. So, you know, not everybody thinks the same. Everybody's got different viewpoints. So it's good to be able to bounce things off of. So even, you know, I guess I would suggest even if someone's working with an attorney or an accountant or somebody or a tax preparer, it doesn't hurt every once in a while to bounce ideas or get ideas from some others, because, you know, not everybody thinks the same.
So it's not just in the realm of doctors where second opinions are useful, I guess.
I would say not.
Yeah.
I would say not.
Yeah. Well, Dan, if someone wanted to get hold of you and take you up on this offer to chat and see whether you'd be a good fit, how do they get hold of you?
Well, basically, the office is at 501 Park Drive South here in Great Falls, but the phone number is 406-761-2820.
Well, Dan, I for one would put in a vote for someone with some issues having to do with their farm and ranch to get hold of you. I think it'd bring a lot of value.
I look forward to working with the new clients and just, you know, seeing what they bring to the table. And sometimes they're doing something that I can help share with some of my other clients too. You know, I might see ways that they're operating that may benefit others that I can share across the table. So I welcome anything new.
Yeah. Well, Dan, thank you so much for spending a little time to chat with us and our friends. and wish you all the best.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.